Hi there, welcome to another edition of The Heart of a Youth Leader. These are short weekly podcasts to help you as a youth or children's leader in a church setting to focus on what's the most important, and that is keeping your heart healthy and your relationship with God really strong. It was Kenda Creasy-Dean who first introduced me to the phrase moralistic therapeutic deism. And the danger of this infiltrating all of our youth work in the church. And I don't know if that's a familiar phrase to you, it probably is, but if it's not, let me just explain it to you. Moralistic therapeutic deism is about worship of our morality and our self-help kind of attitude to life. And it's about realizing that how easy it is to teach morals to young people rather than to introduce them to Jesus, who fulfills our beliefs and adapts our morality and our attitude to how we live because of our relationship with him. And the therapeutic is so easy to have a faith or to communicate a faith that just is about making you feel better. Life will be okay if you know Jesus. Life will be wonderful. We can misuse Jesus' words of, I came to bring you life in all its fullness, by saying, oh, if you're in a relationship with Jesus, everything's great, it's all fun. You'll never have another worry, you'll never have another problem, which is absolute nonsense. For anyone who's been a Christian more than 5 minutes knows life with Jesus is not always easy. In fact, Jesus tells us it will be difficult. It will be costly. It will cost our lives. We have to pick up our cross daily. The cross was the most brutal implement of torture leading to death. And it's about not making you feel better. It's about sacrificially serving others. And yet so much I see in youth work today is around this moralistic therapeutic deism. We try and win young people with entertainment. We try and win young people with, let's just talk about the good things, how to make your life better, how to enjoy and to make a success of your life. And young people rightly are desperate to find out who they are, why they've been made, what's God put them here for, what's their purpose in life. And it's very tempting for us as youth leaders to misuse our position and to make out that they're going to be the person to make the biggest difference ever, or they will have a real powerful role. I remember talking to an older teenager a few years ago who told me that someone had spoken a prophecy over them, saying that they were going to be the person that will completely transform their generation in this country. And the problem was it went to his head as a power thing and of a the word might have been true, but actually it had such a negative consequence on how this person started living, because they got full of pride and felt that they were like God's gift. And the problem is leadership is such a tightrope to walk along, because we are in such positions of authority, of influence. And when Jesus was teaching this, because he had the Pharisees, who were the ultimate religious leaders, who were kept themselves to themselves so no one else would know how they lived their lives. They would demonstrate publicly their praying and their attitudes and their reprimanding of people of the faith and the Israelites, and they would be really harsh in their teaching, and they were so overprotective of all the rules and the law. And yet, when you look under the surface, they weren't really very good at keeping the law, because amongst their inner circle, they were okay with breaking it. And there was this real separation between the rules and the law and their lifestyle. And that was the issue Jesus had. He didn't have an issue with the rules. In fact, in Matthew chapter 5, at the start of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says that he doesn't come to abolish the law. In fact, he comes to fulfill it. And he even goes to the extent of saying, truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. The law, Jesus is saying, is spot on, is really important. The problem is when people teach the law but they don't live it. In fact, he goes on to say, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. He's saying the Pharisees are at the lowest part of the bar. You need to be better than they are. And yet the Pharisees were held up as this in high esteem and in sort of amazement of they really understand what it means to follow God and to worship God. And yet what they were doing is they were great with the words, they were terrible with the actions. And how much of us in our leadership are great with the words, but terrible with the actions? I've lost count of the number of times. I think leaders say this to me, feeling like it's a humble thing to say. But actually, I find it really devastating. They say, "Oh, I wouldn't want my young people to really know, how I live my life. They'd be so disappointed." And I get there is a sense of there's a humbleness in that, a humility in that. But actually, what we're saying is, do as I say, don't do as I do. I'd hate for you to be disappointed. And therefore, a lot of youth leaders, we have, when we think of our role models, people who are inspiring us to keep going on in youth work, they're often people we don't actually know. They're kind of celebrity youth workers. And we know from the devastation of Soul Survivor and Mike Pilavachi's public falling recently, that actually when we put people we don't know up on a pedestal, it inevitably tumbles down with our disappointment. And we need to have role models who we know, who we can walk alongside. The best role models for you and me are people that we look up to, who we're doing ministry together with, who we can actually see their life, both in the private and the public. And our young people desperately need authentic examples of followers of Jesus. They don't need excellent teaching without demonstration. I remember listening to a youth worker giving a talk once on, I think it was around the Good Samaritan. Oh, no, it was on Love Your Enemies. And this youth worker said, but I've got to say, I'm not very good at this. In fact, I don't want to love my enemies, but I know that it's a command that I want to do. But I'm rubbish at it because it don't really sit right. And I was like, I know there's this thing of not coming across as you've got it all right, all sorted, because that's so important, because it comes back to authenticity. But equally, when you're saying, I don't want to love my enemies and I don't really want to do this, what you're kind of communicating is to the young people, you don't really need to do this. We ought to, but I understand it's difficult and I'm doing all right. And so, friends, my challenge for us this week is let's really get to grips with the teaching of the law, the commands that God has given us in Scripture. And let's privately first make sure we're obeying them. Make sure we're doing all we can, whatever the cost, even if it means not watching the latest series on Netflix, or even if it means not scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're on, because we want to value the highest our obedience to Jesus because of what he paid for us. I guarantee it will transform your youth work because it will transform you, and we will be safe people to lead. And we need to practice and teach the commands. And I love Jesus calls it practice. It's practice because practice makes perfect. It's not going to be, we're not always going to get them right. We're not always going to be spot on. But we've got to not give up practicing. And let's be the role models that our young people can trust and we're safe to follow, and that they see Jesus when they see us. And it's not just about what they hear coming from our lips. Have a great week and go for it.